Hello, everyone. My name is Jay Donnelly, and I'm an actor known for playing Stu Matcher in the Scream prequel of Mice and Boys. But unfortunately, I don't act anymore because I got a lot of hate for my most recent role, that ruined my career. But that's a long story I'll get into another time. But today, what I want to talk about is kind of a very debatable topic that I know secretly that not a lot of people don't know, and that I get a lot of hate on for people telling me that they think I'm delusional for this, and that is everyone likes to argue about whether or not America belongs to the Native Americans or the Italians, because of Christopher Columbus. But little does everyone know it belongs to neither. It belongs to the Scandinavians. That's right. And I know this because I'm 1/16th Scandinavian from Denmark from my mom's side of the family, which is why I have dark blonde hair. And so basically, here's what happened. As everyone knows, the Vikings, the Scandinavians, they was really big enemies with the European knights, the Mediterranean Spartas, and the Slavic, indigenous Slavic people, whatever they was called, and they would always sail around in their Viking ships, looking for land to claim to defend themselves from their enemies, the Europeans, Mediterraneans, and Slavics. And when they sailed to North America and found it and got out of their ships, it belonged to absolutely no one except for animals. And the Vikings, they wasn't Christian at the time. They had their own religion they called paganism, and they basically was vegan. Like they didn't eat. They believed that animals was people too, and they was obsessed with animals, basically. And in fact, a fun fact, little does everyone know, is that the reason why a lot of natives are obsessed with animals is because in like the wolf, the whole like wolf phenomena with Native Americans is because of the Vikings. The Vikings had that influence on them. And so basically, when the Vikings all stepped out of their ships and walked around North America, it belonged to no one, just no one. It was completely open land. And so they left, got back in their ships, and sailed all the way back to Scandinavia to alert more Vikings about their discovery. Sorry, I felt like I was going to throw up in my mouth. But anyways, as they came back, as while they was gone, the indigenous people of the Arctic had heard the sound of the horns on the Viking ships and followed them, leading them to North America. And then when the Vikings eventually came back with more Vikings, they was all confused about what they saw, the indigenous people of the Arctic, and they taught them the Norse Viking language, and they questioned them on who they was, where they came from, and if this was their land, and if they was trespassing, and if so, sorry. And the indigenous people of the Arctic, they was honest to them, and they told them that the truth, that that the Vikings had beat them there first, and that they just heard the sounds of the horns on their ships and followed them, leading them to North America. But they also told them about how dangerously cold it was becoming in the Arctic, and about how many of them, including babies and toddlers, was dying of hypothermia. And the Vikings, despite being the tough brutes they for the first time felt empathy, and they, out of pure kindness, just allowed the indigenous people of the Arctic to have North America. And they left and got back in their ships and went back to Scandinavia. And then approximately 1,508 years later, mean and nasty Christopher Columbus and his crew of Mediterranean men, ruled by Queen Isabella of Spain, come over, and they invade and colonize them. Then followed by George Washington and the brunette white people years later in the 1700s. It's a sad story. And with all the colonialism, with eventually George Washington and his men establishing the American flag, everyone's suddenly just forgotten about the Scandinavians and their and their right to North America. It's kind of like how a lot of people forget how like the Irish and the Jews and the Mediterraneans and the Slavics faced segregation despite being white, just like people of color did. There's a lot of there's some things in history that have just been forgotten. And blonde haired white people like myself, we we're patriotic over our own land, Scandinavia, and like we're all big supporters of Bernie Sanders, and we believe that America should be like Scandinavia. And during Fourth of July, we wave our Scandinavian flags, and we get basically hate from everyone outside of our ethnicity, like everyone who isn't a blonde haired white person, like the brunette white people and Mediterraneans hate us, because they're all about, they're all conservative and love America. Native Americans, African Americans, Hispanics, and all other people of color will hate on us, thinking that we're ignorant and that it's just a fantasy we have that we stepped foot on North America first, and that we're full of shit. So basically, we're used to hate. Like we're used to it, and we kind of, even as much as the natives hate us, like we kind of reason with them, and we feel bad for them that people that they get the American flag thrown in their face, when it's their land, when it was their land given to us, that we chose to give to them and them only. And the whole point of me making this video was not just to stir up the pot and get a bunch of people hating on each other, but I just wanted to share just the whole truth of what I know that I've learned being a Scandinavian. And if y'all want, y'all can easily follow me on Instagram, DJ Donnelly, which will be in the link below. And hope y'all have a good one.